All right. I would like to call the meeting to order and acknowledge that we are in Treaty 1 territory, the home and traditional lands of the Anishinaabe, Ojibwe, Innu, Cree, and Dakota peoples, and in the national homeland of the Red River Métis. Our drinking water comes from Shoal Lake 40 First Nation in Treaty 3 territory. My name is Marla Billinghurst. I will be chairing the meeting this afternoon. On the panel with me this afternoon is Mr. Bill Moretsky and Mr. Richard Whitbread. Representing the assessment department is Mr. Jeremy Pohl and Ms. Svetlana Shabel. And the recording secretary is Mr. Jaswinder Kumar. We will be hearing applications for revision of the assessment roll in accordance with the Municipal Assessment Act. The matters for which revision is requested have been described in each application, and we will limit discussion to those matters. The statements that are made at this hearing are sworn testimony, and anyone speaking to the matters must be sworn in. Sorry. Be advised that comparisons of assessments of properties are not considered evidence of market value by the Board of Revision. The Board of Revision is appointed annually by Council and is independent of it and the City Administration. It makes its decisions on the basis of the evidence provided at this hearing and issues a written order that will be mailed to all parties as soon as possible. Please note that the Board's decisions with respect to an application may be appealed to the Manitoba Municipal Board if the matter pertains to assessed value or classification, or to the Court of King's Bench if the matter pertains to the application of exemptions from taxation. Should you wish to appeal, information on how to do so will be included with the Board's order. With respect to the hearing process, I will confirm the points of appeal with your property to be addressed with each applicant following the swearing in. We will then have the assessor's testimony, followed by questions that the applicant may have, and then the applicant's testimony followed by questions. Each side will have an opportunity to summarize if they wish. Once all of the evidence about an application has been brought forward, the applicant may leave. The process will repeat for each item on the docket today. The session will close after all the applications have been heard, and the Board will deliberate in private and make its decisions. You will receive the Board's decision by registered mail as soon as possible. As information, all public hearings are live streamed, recorded, and will be part of the public record. We will be hearing items 2, 3, 5, 6, and 7 on our docket today. Mr. Kumar, please affirm the assessor's and the applicant's testimony.
Yes, Madam Chair. Madam Assessor, please state your full name.
Jeremy Ryan Bull. Oh, sorry.
Svetlana Shabel.
Thank you. Do you confirm that the evidence you are about to give at this hearing is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Thank you. Mr. Assessor, please stand.
Jeremy Ryan Bull.
You confirm that the evidence you are about to give at this hearing is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Thank you. Mr. Applicant, please stand. Do you confirm that the evidence state your full name? Sorry.
Trevor Smith.
Thank you. Do you confirm that the evidence you are about to give at this hearing is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
Okay, we will begin with the matter number 2 on this afternoon's docket, 280 St. Mary Avenue.
Madam Chair, may I make a quick suggestion?
Sure.
We have Mr. Pohl and I have a single property. It's not the first one on the docket. I'm not sure if you wanted to do that one first or what your preference would be.
The item number 5.
Sorry?
The item number 5.
Item number 5. Is Ms. Shable aware of?
And how long it will take?
My presentation will be about 15 minutes.
15 minutes, yeah? Okay. It's half hours. Can I leave for half hours?
Yeah. If the chair awards allows it, yes.
Normally we do go in order of the docket, but okay, sure.
Thank you. You can hear me?
Yes.
Okay.
So wait, so we are beginning with 275 Portage Avenue then?
Yes.
Okay, fine. Okay, so Mr. Pohl, please proceed.
Okay, roll number is 1305-215-0000. It's for 275 Portage, otherwise known as the Kensington Building. The 2023 assessment is for $13,537,000. My recommendation is to have it maintained today. It is a 17-story Class B building. If we look on page 7, are the photos of the property. So that's where it's located. As you can see, it's a 17-story Class B building. We have it rated as a B average, a bit below average. Pictures are to follow through pages to pages 14. It shows good finish, good condition finish, obviously, but it is average, maybe shade below it. When we have the actual property, there was a municipal board on it. I happened to attend it. I didn't present at this hearing. It's an older board. It's on it's on page 53. The 275 Portage, just to go over it a bit, there was a fair bit of vacancy issue at that point in time. They awarded a bit above market vacancy towards it, but not a chronic level of vacancy, because that was the issue of this property being a little bit below average. We need a higher vacancy rate put towards it. So that's something I'll put my mind's eye towards in this hearing. And also the class of the building. On page 60, the board in this board was convinced that it's a Class B. I feel it's a Class B too. So that's the market that we'll be looking at and exploring today. So when we get back to the actual workup, we can start on page 2. Bear with me while I have a sip of water. Again, there was a bit of vacancy issue. So I did a long-term look at this property. You can see going back to 2006, there's some elevated vacancy within the building. At that point, the agent was seeking at the municipal chronic vacancy, significant adjustment upwards for vacancy. The board awarded away from that and awarded a lower amount of vacancy towards it, but above market because it was experiencing. So when we looked at the study, the 3-year average from working back from the reference date of April 1st, 2021, we have about a 5% vacancy. If you look back 5 years, it's about 9.6%. You look back 10 years, it's about 9.1%. So it's right in line with market. And I'll get to the actual market in a moment. So just want to show that a bit of a vacancy study on the building. We don't look at the vacancy at one particular point in time. We look at the horizon on an economic, long-term look at it, not on a short-term look. And in this case here, it gives good relevance to if you're a B building, if you're an A building, if you're a higher class building, unless there's some kind of obstacle to market moving into your building, which you wouldn't really ever occur in a B or C or a B or an A building because it's a prime investment property. You can invest capital to fix any kind of obsolescence within the building. And these type of buildings, simply that kind of barrier to market doesn't really exist. So with that, I'm satisfied there's no economic obsolescence that would, or I should say physical obsolescence to the building that would take away its performance within the marketplace as far as being leasable. And it shows, as you can see, there's vacancy down to 2% over those years, 3%. And of course, in 2006, 7, and 8, some higher degree of vacancy as well. So getting on to the actual analysis, starting on page 3, the The model predicted an overall average rate of $12.82 a square foot for 93,737 square feet, which produced a potential gross income of $1,201,775. Vacancy at 11%. Produces an effective gross income of approximately $1,069,000. Our expenses at 3% non-recoverable and shortfall at $12 subtracted from the effective gross income gives us a net operating income of $913,760, capped at 6.75, gives us our value at $13,537,000. Summary of that is on page 4. Obviously, there's one income stream, so that's what we have. I will then skip ahead to page 62. For this cycle, I've done a deep dive into the marketplace for the B and OFA properties. I've explored all of the ones that rent. I've looked at over 4 million square feet of inventory, 660 some odd leases that leased up within the marketplace over a 6-year study. And I've also taken all the rents, all the shortfall, all the vacancy, and the non-recoverables and put it in relationship to each other for the global marketplace, as well as the individual buildings themselves that rent. And I've also cross-referenced that against the Johnson report and another outside source for Cushman Wakefield, just to see what the actual owners are asking, what they're advertising, what they're showing, and show it in relationship to each other. So in this one study, it is the most information that's ever been presented at appeal, this go-around at the Board of Vision. Quite frankly, it's a totality of the marketplace for the last 6 years. So leading up to the reference date, I've looked at the individual years, but I stabilized the last 3 for the stabilized, as you can see in the upper portion of the page 1 of the study. And that's to take into account the economic years of the 3 years leading up to the reference date. To be reasonable, you're buying higher end investment grade properties. You need to look at more than 1 year. So in this case here, we're looking at a span of 6, pushing the reference date and using exclusively for the global analysis, the last 3 years stabilized. And I've done the same stabilized throughout the same year stabilized throughout the report. So, so as you can see, I'll just go through this in a bit more detail. I'll answer questions afterwards if you have any. We see that for an overall weighted average and median, we're doing an appropriate statistical analysis, a proper statistical analysis. We have a rent of $14.35 for an average, a weighted average of $14.39, and a median of $14. We then also include a min-max range, or just to see where the outliers are, where typically a little bit low rent would be, a little bit higher rent would be. We have that shown as well. After that, we have our vacancy, which is applied to the rent, meaning if you're going to obtain this kind of rent, what's in relationship to the vacancy that would be occurred. So if you have a lower market than rent, you're going to expect a lower market vacancy. If you have a considerable more than market rent, you might experience a little bit higher vacancy, given that you're asking more for the market to bear. So when we look at this, we see for around $14.39, we have an average vacancy of 13%, 12% for the vacancy weighted average, and a vacancy median of 8.7%. As we can see below that, the number of CRUs used for the stabilized is 217. So we have 217 comparables for this amount of data for this stabilized, these stabilized values. And for the shortfall, again, we explored that as well. We have a shortfall average of $14.09, $13.88 for the weighted average, and a median of $13.60. So again, pretty tight analysis. The only thing that we would deviate from agents in the past, last cycle, we had a non-recoverable expense issue between agents and assessor. part of that was I'm trying to keep everything in relationship to each other, but also exploring what the actual parameters are. Here we have, leading up to the reference date, approximately 3%. So when you see the values that they're in at, the weighted average is approximately 3% for the non-recoverable. So, and that's based on all of the reporting that we have coming into the department. So with this, you have the global marketplace on one chart, the entire global marketplace and how it's performing, where it's at, and all four parameters defended, all four parameters proven. So from that, we'll look below. We see the rent in place, the global rents, as you can see. Again, this is a proper statistical analysis where we're using a bell curve. You see, it's very normal distributed. It's a virtual perfect curve. So when we see one standard deviation, we see the rents between $12.79 and $15.99. Then you go outside of that one standard deviation to the second standard deviation. Again, at the 95% level, you see $11.20 to $17.59. So what we're saying is within the one standard deviation, you have 144 leases that occurred, which were between a little under $13 and right at the $16 mark, with a median of approximately $14.39. So there's the bulk of the marketplace right there. If you're going to be exploring outside of that, there better be very good reason you have a B prime, maybe a better performing building, or maybe a bit below grade building. And again, I use that with respect to the actual C and A class, or sorry, A and B class buildings. There really are no bad Bs or As. That's why they're graded as such. So from what we see, we then go below that to the Johnson report. You see the Johnson report indicating what they do. We see their weighted average for what they're asking for is about $15.37. So they're getting they're asking for about $1 more than what they're actually getting. So sometimes the arguments have been, we can't get what that particular group of comparables are saying. In this case here, we explored the entire marketplace. We see what outside and sources are listing the properties at, what they're advertising at, and ultimately what they're getting on a global basis. And then again, we're going to move into the actual individual comps as we go through the study. So below that is again the vacancy issue, reported vacancy on the Johnson report. We have here, I'm just making it clear, the Johnson report data that we use, we redacted out any of the owner occupied buildings. You see the fourth line down in the Johnson report study was unadjusted owner occupied buildings, meaning inclusive of, they report a lower vacancy. And that would be because they're reporting fully occupied buildings within the marketplace, right? But if they're not participating within the marketplace, that should be redacted out. So that's what I've done. And it's more reflective of what's actually going on in the marketplace. So if your building if it's owner occupied and it doesn't rank, you shouldn't be using it as such in a study like this. So below that is again the shortfall. And shortfall is fine to be included because costs are costs to occupy a building, to run a building. And as we can see, we're in around the $14 range for the shortfall for the average, weighted average, and median. Moving on. We see the comparables at play. This analysis was done on a net basis. Any building that occupies and rents on a net basis has been included. There's a couple exceptions that buildings are underperforming and use of change of use, I should say, were being converted to other uses, so they've been eliminated from the study. And then also any buildings that rent on a gross basis or semi-gross basis doesn't really conform to the study. We're doing things on a net basis for assessment appeal, for assessment work. In this case here, the subject property is on a more along that line. So the subject property is not included in the study, but as you go through the study, you see that all of the properties that usually get appealed are in the study, and the performances are exactly what are indicated in the global study, just on an individual basis. So this individual basis as a whole makes up the global study. And I won't go into any more detail than that because unless the board would like that, because I think it's pretty much self-explanatory once you.
I think we understand.
What you see from the global perspective is the same all the way through. So,
Yes.
then we reference the Johnson report. The Johnson report is a useful report. It's not without its errors or differences. As I've gone through this in quite detail, you see little changes here or there where maybe their files a little bit, but overall it's a good report that I think is useful. You see what the actual advertisement of spaces that they're trying to lease are. So here's where you see these aren't leases in place that have been signed, but simply spaces that are being offered in the marketplace and the rates that the owners feel they want for it. And of course, the Johnson report simply brings that into focus. So you can go through that at your leisure. You see, bear with me here. And I apologize for the print. It's a little smaller than I would have liked, but it's a lot of data here. I got to fit it on a page. So the next report over on page 68 is, of course, the subject property. Their highlight, I should say, is the subject property on the 3 years of the Johnson report leading up to the reference date. You see that's 275 Portage highlighted at the bottom of the page. And they're not reporting any vacancy as per square foot, but they are reporting a rate. So it looks like they're offering to the market $14 net. Although the building, and I should say in the 2018 year, they're reporting $13. So it's an escalation in rent. It goes from 13 to 14 to 14. So that's what the property owner is conveying to the marketplace. When we go back to the actual study, or I should say, when we go back to the actual workup on page 3, we see that the average Class B building or B building is signed up for around $14.39 with a market vacancy of around 11 or so percent, 12%. We see that what we have.
Excuse me.
Okay, I had COVID too. I think pretty much everyone has now, so it's okay. Just the way it works. So we see an average rent of $12.82 a square foot. I looked at this property before it was as the model came out. I reviewed all the properties. I feel that's an appropriate rent for a building that is a little bit below an average. In my opinion, it's slightly below an average to a little bit below. So you're looking at about $1.07 below on a net basis. The vacancy was appropriate given the fact that over a 10-year horizon, you're looking at about 9% leading up to the reference date. It's in at 11. So based on that, I feel $13,537,000 is appropriate. It meets market. It's dialed into exactly where I feel it should be, just an average to below average. It's performing well. As you can see from the vacancy issue, there is no barrier to marketplace here. It's a full building, even though you have a bit of vacancy in the mid-2000s. You see it's quite in line with market afterwards. So with that, I'm open to any questions the agent or board may have.
Thank you very much. Mr. Smith, do you have any questions for the assessor?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yes, I do have a few just to clarify a few things, I guess. So there was discussion regarding past history of vacancy in the property on your page 2 there. As of the valuation date itself, 2020 or April 1 rather 2021, we're looking at vacancy of 8.7% in the subject property, right?
On that year, yes.
At that point in time, yes. So we had a couple of years, 2018 and 19 before that, where they have some kind of structural vacancy on the main floor that has not been leased. Going back one further year, 2017, we're back up to 19% and 14%. So there is evidence that the 11% vacancy that is being assigned is supportable by the market evidence, correct?
Yeah, I'm recommending 11%.
Yeah.
That's why I broke it down.
Just to clarify, yeah, I know we're on the same page on that. I just wanted to be that to be clear to the board that that is supported. I do have a couple of other questions. So regarding regarding the building itself, so the city has classified the property as a Class B downtown office building, and obviously there's a range there. You, I believe, have stated that it would fall below average in terms of
average
the overall universe of Class B buildings.
And average to a bit below average.
Okay, so just to that point, then, so the study that you've done of the Class B buildings. So I'm assuming starting on page 63. I'll just wait for everybody to get there.
Yep.
So 63, 64, 65, on to 66, I guess. Yeah. So I was looking at this part of the study. So this is a total of 15 buildings. Is that?
I looked at it. I looked at a few more, but yes, the buildings that are that many.
Okay, so this is either all of or the majority of your study, correct? These particular buildings that are
all of the data that you see is derived from those buildings. Yes, right. There was a few OFBs that rent out on a gross basis. There's a few that were being converted over because their income streams essentially ended and were being converted over to multifamily. So at that point, we're moving. Yeah, the appropriate they're moved.
Of course, yeah, absolutely. I agree with that.
Having difficulty hearing the assessor.
Sorry, better?
Yeah.
Are you able to hear me there?
Not very well.
Not very well. Okay.
Okay, now I'm okay. I guess it depends on how you're sitting there.
Back from the mic. My apologies. So just to repeat that point, then I guess we're looking at 15 buildings here in the study that is done. I take it that's where the universe of I believe it's 217 leases. Is that?
Correct.
Is that correct?
Yeah, and there was a few hundred before that as well over the 6-year study. So we looked at quite a bit.
Okay, so those would be taken from these 15 buildings essentially.
Yes, they're all from what you see.
Okay, so and please bear with me, panel. There is a point here. It's not always easy to state these as questions. So I'm just going to summarize and then wrap up with a question, I guess. When I look at these properties, and I'm just going to go through them very briefly here, they're all superior to the subject property. These are by and large the top end of Class B in the city. There's one suburban that's in here, but when we look at the properties themselves, they are above the subject. So just briefly, again, page 63. The first property here, 330 St. Mary's, is located at Hargrave, across from City Place, connected to it by Skywalk, significant parking. Second property is a bit of an anomaly, 240 Graham. It's the building that fronts on the police station. It's the tower on the front there, former post office building. Again, connected to the Skywalk, connected to Portage and Main, etc. 444 St. Mary, located at Vaughan, by the HBC building. Again, one of the premier Class Bs. Then we get into 220 Portage. Royal Bank Building, 1.5 block west, I guess, of Portage and Main, connected to the underground, to the 3 Class A's at the corner. 161 Portage is adjacent to the Richardson Building in Fairmont. I don't necessarily want to go through each and every one of these. That's probably not a strong use of our time here, but when I do go through these and look at both the location, the amenities, the structure itself, each of these properties would fall in my ranking of Class B downtown office properties. Each of these properties would fall above the subject property in terms of the desirability from a tenant's point of view.
Mr. Smith,
Yes.
sorry to interrupt, but right now it's like you'll have your chance for your presentation shortly, but do you have any questions for the assessor?
And I do apologize, as this material is not in my brief. It's difficult to present. So my question would be, when we're looking at these particular properties and doing the study, which you've done a thorough job on, would the resultant statistics with regard to net rental rates not reflect a superior class of property to the subject, and then therefore drive a higher overall average rate in comparison to what would be appropriate to the subject?
No, if you're looking at the building, it's still a B. If you look at the municipal board order, they awarded it as B. If you go through the order, they awarded the main floor area as a superior area as far as the tenancy. I detracted from that because of the vacancy issue that you already pointed out, and I have just an average rate on it. Overall, this is an indicator of market, and in this case, when we're reviewing the performance of the building and reviewing the performance of the marketplace, you can see that it's a bit below average. That's where I put it at. The average is $14.39 or so. When I looked at the Johnson report, the ownership group is advertising between $13 to 3 years from the reference date and $14 not the reference date net. So when I'm looking at it, they're right in line with what they're seeking in the market. There are a few, obviously, CRUs that are going to go higher than that, depending on the use of the CRUs. But overall, I think it's gauged properly and an average to bit below average. And the performance, as you can see, as far as tenancy, it didn't hover around for vacancy. It didn't hover around 15 to 20% for the majority of the decade. It was quite high because the tenancies dropped, or the tenancies were reduced, but the building absorbed the market. You can see it reflecting of that. So you can see a building that can, on an economic horizon, be filled and get market level for vacancy. You expect to get market rent. And in this case here, it's been gauged to be just slightly below that. So I think that would be appropriate to use the Class B marketplace as it's seated for this building here.
Okay.
We're not pretending it's a B prime where it should be at around 15 or 15,
right,
or 16, depending on the level of finish of different CRUs overall.
Yes, we understand that. So.
Okay, great. So just a few follow-up questions, I guess. Obviously, asking rate, advertised rate is not necessarily the rate that's achieved by the property owner upon signing of the lease. Is that fair to say?
Not necessarily, and my study indicates that for the 270 comparables that we looked at, on average, they were advertising a little over $15 and they got a little over $14. So you're looking at maybe $1 less per square foot. When they're advertised between $13 and $14 here, we have it a little under 13. So I think it's in line with the ratio.
Okay, so you're looking at ratio, but again, the question was if advertised rate is necessarily what's achieved, and as you said, there is a delta between asking and achieved in your study, correct?
Usually, I mean, some CRUs sign up for the exact amount that they're released, that are advertised, that some don't. So you can see from the populace, the numbers are how they lie.
Okay, looking at sorry, there's a number of pages I've earmarked here. This is income expense. All right. The Class B classification. So, what does the city, I guess, utilize as the defining points of Class B? How is it broken out from Class E, A, and Class C?
Well, we're a reflection of, we reflect the marketplace. We reflect how the market classes their buildings. We use BOMA, obviously. That's how the marketplace leases out. It's a reflection of that. In this case here, obviously we look at the age, we look at the size, we look at the location. When we look at, generally when I'm looking at a property, I'm looking at the income, what the income, how it's performed, what the income potential is. That really defines, that's the main difference between an A, a B, a C, a B. A's dominate the marketplace, they control the marketplace. And as you can see per square foot, there's a lowering as you go down in the classes. So this one's where it is. I feel that it should be in the B class. It was reviewed at this board detail being determined to be B. I'm not, the Johnson report has it listed as a B. I see no evidence that would indicate that it should be anything other than a B. So.
Right. No, I'm not really arguing that point. Just wondering what the specific classification parameters would be, say, stories, square footage, amenities, etc.
Yeah, basically the BOMA standard is what's used by the department. But realistically, from, like I pointed out, from doing this for as long as I'm doing it, the defining difference between it is how much can your building generate. And that separates the A's from the B's and so forth.
Okay, I believe I will leave my questions at that. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Mr. Moretsky, do you have any questions for the assessor?
So your study on the upper pages there, pages 60 and 63. So that was an exercise to basically back up what this model is providing as the average square foot rent?
Yes and no. I did it on we had a large issue with non-recoverables last cycle. It was one small parameter in a greater income stream. What I did was take a good deep dive and to see what the actual marketplace is and all parameters, put everything in relationship to each other. No longer we grab in different vacancies for different projects to the point where it's not really how the market would play out. What I did was put everything into relationship with each other to see what the rent would go with. The market rent would go with the market vacancy, would go with the market non-recoverable, would go with the shortfall. And as you can see, that's what I put it in as. Now, that's my own independent study for both the A's and the B's. And like I said, it was well over 4 million square feet of inventory, 660 some odd individual CRUs that leased out. So basically the whole marketplace. The modelers come up with their assessments. And after that's done, and I don't have any real part of that, it goes to percent change review. I looked at every single one of these to ensure that it was appropriate. And then I cross-referenced it against the study that I'd done. So any tweaking that needed to be done, I've done. And in that case, a few properties did get some, but in this case here, there was no adjustments made to the model. So when I looked at it, the model came out at what it came out at, and when I cross-referenced it against what I've completed, it's in line with what the model was what the model predicted. So the model predicted a low market average, as you can see, it is. And model predicted an unrecoverable. Our non-recoverables don't include below line items. Agents are including below line items. We have multiple orders from the municipal board not to include that. So there's going to be some separation there.
Yes.
So, and that's clear. I'm making that clear. I made it clear. Also making it clear now.
Yeah, I think
We don't need to go into the great detail. And
no.
2 hours, because this whole analysis was done in a way that you can quickly reference it and we don't have to spend a lot of time. It's at your fingertips. If you don't like what you see, you have all the data to review.
Yes, I think it's been thoroughly explained.
Yeah. So, I mean, getting back to the question from the panel member, it is a reference that I've used as an assessor coming in to review the properties to see if the model is correct, to see if it gauged each individual property properly. And when I've done a 6-year study, so on virtually everyone that rents, you can see that it is in line with the model.
Okay, thanks for that explanation of that question. Just another short one, a brief one, if I may, on the capitalization rate, 6.75%.
Yeah.
Can you that came from your the chart on page 5? Is that how you determine that?
Yeah, and just so the board, I didn't include it in the brief today. That was what the model predicted. I've done the OFBs that have went to the municipal board in the recent years leading up. There was 4 sales, 220 Portage, 240 Graham, 330 St. Mary's, and 175 Hargrave. We're in a range between 6 and just a shade over 7. So when I see, and that was presented at the municipal board and verified there, I'm not presenting it today.
And we don't need to hear what was.
Yeah. So when I'm seeing what I reviewed for the 4 major buildings that have sold, it's in line with what market is saying, and it's in line with what the model used. So I think it's
yes.
Okay. Thank you. No further questions.
Thank you, Mr. Moretsky. Mr. Whitbread, do you have any questions for the assessor?
No, Bill asked the cap rate question I had, so I'm fine, thanks.
Great, thank you very much. I have no questions. So, Mr. Smith, please proceed with your presentation.
Okay, thank you, Madam Chair. So we're looking at the Kensington building today, 275 Portage Avenue. It is classified as a Class B building. What I was trying to get at in my questions posed to the assessor is that there's a range within each property type. We're looking at Class B office buildings. There's a lower end, and there's a higher end, and there's a mid-range, obviously. The subject property, for the reasons I'll explain here today, is not in the mid-range. It's at the low end of the range as far as Class B buildings. The background, let's just have a quick look at my cover page. So we have a photo of the exterior. You can see the frontage of the building from the Portage Avenue perspective. You can get a sense of both the width and the depth of the building and the narrow floor plate that we'll discuss in a minute. There's also, and I'll just point you, if you wish, if you have a moment, to either page 8 or 9 of 8 or 9 or 10 of the assessor's brief. They also provide an excellent aerial view of the subject property, and you can see the narrow site that the property sits upon, which obviously guides the physical structure that can be built on there, and results in the very narrow floor plate that the subject results in. So the photos of the property begin on page number 4 for us. A couple of the exterior, obviously, one from the rear of the property, and then we get into the building itself, beginning on page 5. Bit of trivia. My very first summer job in university was in this building, working for federal government department at that time. So I have been in the property many times at that point, and obviously more recently as well. The floor plate, as discussed, it's 5,500 square feet roughly for the floor plate, with as you can see, hallway in the middle. It's very awkward in terms of layout for a large majority of tenancies or potential tenancies in the marketplace, and leads to considerably less interest in the market when comparing the subject property to other potential leasing options for tenants that are looking for space in the market. So that is one very significant drawback of the building. The very long, narrow floor plate, and the size of 5,500 square feet. Again, not suitable to a lot of tenancies. Beyond that, very significant issue for the subject property is that they have no parking. There is no on-site parking. They do not control any parking, and that they don't own any adjacent lots or adjacent parkades, and they can't guarantee any potential tenants that they will have parking available for them if they're to lease space in their building. This is a significant drawback for office tenants in the downtown. Parking is obviously a critical factor for a large number of tenancies in their determination of the space that they lease. And this particular property cannot offer that. When you look at the universe of Class B buildings that the assessors provided, beginning on page 63, they either control their own parking and or they are connected to parkades, underground parking, etc., by above ground walkways, underground walkways, etc. We're looking at Class B buildings, not every single one, but the majority of them that are connected to the skywalk and or the underground, and somewhat clustered either on St. Mary's, connected to the skywalk, and or around Portage and Main. So let's look at the location of the subject property for comparison. Beginning on page number 9, we have our aerial photo, again, just showing the site description at the corner of Smith and Portage on the northeast corner. With the map on page number 10 indicating that particular location. So not connected to the skywalk, we're located 3 blocks to the west of Portage and Main on the north side of Portage Avenue. The area immediately surrounded, so we're not surrounded by other Class B properties. We're looking at either small scale office and or commercial fronting on Portage Avenue, Dominion News on the south side of the road. The Radisson Hotel is kitty corner to the southwest of the subject property. Not the same prime locations that the majority of the Class B properties that are included in this study are located in. So all of those things being stated, if you're a tenant on the marketplace and you're looking at your options for Class B space in downtown, this does not rise to the top of your list. If you're looking at this space, you see the drawbacks that it has, and you're not willing to pay what you would be at those other locations. You're at the bottom end of the scale for Bs, and or towards the bottom end of the scale. Now, if we look, and again, this is information that's in the hearing, so I'm just going to direct you to page 62 of the assessor's study. If we look at the chart at the top of the page. So we have stabilized average rents, weighted average rents, medians, and then we have the range, the minimum and the maximum. So stabilized for the last 3 years, we're looking at a low end of $10 a square foot and a high end of $19 a square foot. For 2020, that range is $12 on the low end and $18 on the high end in this study. Now, this is why am I pointing this out? The subject property, when we go through the exercise of netting out the gross leases in place, we arrive at an overall net rental rate for the subject property based on the existing rents at $12.35 per square foot. Now, when we examine the extensive study that's been done on Class B and we look at the subject property itself as well as the drawbacks, that falls well within the range that is provided by the city in the study of the Class B office market downtown. Is it at the very bottom end of the range? No, it's not $10. It's slightly above that, as supported by the data provided. Now, getting back to our brief, I've run through the description of the property. Let's get into the brief itself. So page number 14, we can look at the valuation. I don't know that we need to go through this in any great detail. I'm happy to discuss the individual comparables for rent if you wish. Suffice it to say, we're looking at properties that are of a comparable nature to the subject. They're not all Class B properties, but many of them are superior in some ways to some of the Class Bs in terms of the amenities, the build out, the renovations that have been done to them, et cetera. So the range that we are looking at here is $11 up to a high end of $12.80 a square foot for a lease in 260 St. Mary. I'm very familiar with 260 St. Mary. Used to work in the building for over 10 years. I'm familiar with that lease. It's the build out of a law office, very high level of finish. We're looking at a $12.80 a square foot rental rate range for that particular property in 2017. So again, range 11 to 1280. We have the stats from both Cushman and Capital with regard to the office market in Winnipeg. You can see the stats there. Obviously, they're indicating Class B with an average net rental rate of $15.59 for Cushman, Class C at $11.68. Now, the subject would fall in between those two parameters. We're towards the bottom end of the range of Class Bs as indicated. Capital, similarly, $14.96 for Bs and $12.91 for C is what they're indicating in their particular study. Now, the actual rents for the subject property are shown on page number 13. It is a gross rental basis. Again, netting out the rates, we have rates ranging between $9.61 a square foot, $7.61 for one particular floor, but the majority of them are slightly higher than that. Our overall average, once it's netted out, should come to, as shown on page number 19, comes to $12.35 a square foot. So let's move beyond the lease rates. We believe the in-place rental rates are very reflective of the subject property. If they were able to achieve greater rates than what they're getting, they would do so, obviously. Let's look at the expense side. I won't run through vacancy. We're in agreement with the 11% vacancy. I believe it is supported by the subject itself as well. And the expense allowance, we've all discussed this ad nauseum. I will not go through this in any greater detail than the assessor, other than to point out we've provided the background with regard to the methodology from the Appraisal Institute of Canada as to what should and should not be included in the derivation of net operating income, including non-recoverable expenses, and what those line items are, shown on page 17. I'll leave that for you to review. Obviously, we believe 7% is below market, but supportable by the evidence provided in the study that we show on pages 16 and 17. Shortfall of $8 a square foot. The subject is higher than that, but we're not going to seek any greater shortfall in our valuation. And we can move on to capitalization rates. So as the assessor has pointed out, we're really only looking at four main sales of Class B properties in the Winnipeg marketplace in recent time, 220 Portage, etc. And we're looking at a range that runs up to 7% and around. Now, the properties that we're looking at there are four major properties, including 220 Portage. These would be considered superior to the subject property, but the range runs up to 7%. Now, looking at page number 18, we have information from both Cushman Wakefield and Collier's main commercial market brokerages in the Winnipeg market, as well as across Canada. Let's look at Class B and what they state their ranges to be as of the valuation date for investment grade properties. So we're looking at a range of 6.5% to 7% for Cushman Wakefield and 6 to 6.75% for Collier's. Now, below that, there's a slight typo here. The subject property, I would say, falls at the very bottom, very low end of Class B properties. It's not necessarily a Class C, but as stated, there's a range of Class Bs. It would fall towards the lower end. We presented market sales for office transactions in the Winnipeg marketplace as recently as we can between 2017 and 2019. These obviously vary in location, age, size, amenities, etc. What our study here does provide is an indication of what investors are willing to pay in the marketplace for office properties as investment vehicles. Now, our range here, as shown, runs between a low of 6.5% for a very well located property on Waverly, up to 10% for one particular property, 8.4% for another. But dominantly, we're looking in that range, 6.5, 6.75, 6.9, up to 7%, 7.5, roughly. That is the typical range that we are looking at. Now, where does the subject property fall within all of this information? Well, we have a property built in 1980. It has a very awkward floor plate, long and narrow. That's not attractive to large majority of tenancies. It doesn't control its own parking, and it drives lower than average rental rates in the marketplace. Has some structural vacancy on the main floor that hasn't been leased in 15 years and has a history of significant vacancy, not at the reference date, but going back in time. There is clear evidence that a large amount of vacancy does and can exist at this property. So where should the property fall? We believe that a cap rate of 7%, as supported again by the city's statement with regard to the 4 main Class B sales, is certainly a conservative estimate with regard to the cap rate. Our summary of our valuation is shown on page number 19. And you can see our valuation in comparison to the city's valuation. There's a slight gap in leasable area, obviously based on the existing lease structure of the property itself. Rental rate at $12.35 as an overall rate. And our cap rate of 7% applied to the NOI gives us a final market value of $11,602,000. Now, if we look onwards into the addenda, there is an order from the last cycle with regard to subject property with a cap rate of 7.25% being applied. We have the market studies from Colliers and Cushman, I believe, as well as the income and expense statement from the subject property. That is my presentation, and I'm happy to answer any questions there may be.
Thank you very much. Mr. Poole, do you have any questions for Mr. Smith regarding his presentation?
Yes, I do. Okay. You've been made aware of the municipal ward order that I provided in my brief, correct?
Mr. Poole, can you face the microphone when you speak, please?
It's hard to speak to the mic.
I know it's counterintuitive, but when you...
I'm just saying maybe the mic's picked a bit up more. We've all used it better, but that's okay. Let me know if at any point in time you can't hear me, I can repeat myself. You're aware that the municipal board classed this building as a B. It was argued not to be a B.
Yes, I'm not disputing that it is
leading to the class argument. Going to the Johnson report, you're aware that the ownership group is advertising on a net rent basis $13 to $14 over the 3 years leading up to the reference date.
From the Johnson report, yes, I have seen that stat, and as I'd stated with regard to asking rents, the owner and or their agent is certainly welcome to advertise whatever rent they're looking to achieve. That doesn't necessarily mean that they will get that, and obviously there's variation between buildings.
Agreed, but generally speaking, the Johnson report simply takes the leasing information for the buildings that they're looking at and classing it as the property owners and their brokerage firms, whoever is brokering it, is listing that, and they list it as a B.
They do list it as a B, yes.
Okay. Moving on to just a couple questions here. It does lease out on a net basis or gross basis, obviously. Correct?
Correct.
We see on page 9, you made some indication that there is no on-site parking. That is agreed. You're indicating that there's no controllable parking, that would be detriment to the building as far as a tenancy. And yet we see over the span of 10 years, the vacancy being right at market even without parking. So is that a detriment if your building's performing at market for vacancy?
I don't know that that's fair to say that we can say that the building is performing at market. When we go back in time and look at the 10-year history of vacancy in the property, we're looking at rates of 19%, 14%, 18%. There are years where it's lower than that, obviously, 24%. There are drawbacks to this building, and the parking is very, very definitely one of them. In talking with agents for the property as well as the ownership, it's an ongoing issue.
other than a few major tenants leaving in 2006 to 2008, from 2009 onward, it's hovering around market though. Would you, over a 10-year horizon?
Well, I'm not looking at the statistics rather of vacancy for each of those years necessarily, so I can't really speak to each of those, but I would venture to say, 10, 14, 19% would be typically a relatively high level of vacancy.
But that wouldn't be sustained at all from the study that was done. Correct?
Okay, I believe that question's been asked and answered. Let's move
I'll
on.
move on. Thank you.
Thank you.
On your page 13, you indicated you netted out the gross rents. The majority of them are at $12.61, correct?
Quite a number of them are, yes.
Okay. We have an overall average of $12.54.
$12.35.
On that page, I see $12.54.
Yes.
Is that a typo or?
Well, it is a typo, yes. The actual is shown on the summary page, which is page number 19. If you look at the figure versus
so that is $12.54 should have been $12.35.
That is correct.
How many of these are older rents that are in place? Meaning away from the reference date, 3 years away from the reference date. How many of them signed up 3 years leading up to the reference date?
Well, that's an interesting question. And I guess my answer would be that when we look at any office building in the marketplace, there's going to be leases that have been signed within 3 years, and there's going to be leases that have been signed outside of 3 years, if that's your cutoff date. So there's always going to be variability in terms of whether the leases are brand new or not.
Okay. Moving on to page 14 of your brief. You have 7 CRUs comparables.
Yes.
I know these properties, none of them are Class Bs, correct?
None of them are specifically Class Bs. What we're looking at here, again, we're looking for properties that are well located, redeveloped, etc. So each of these properties would fall within that. We have 260 St. Mary here, as we did in your study as well, I believe.
Yeah, 260 St. Mary was in my study. That's not Class.
Oh, I'm sorry. Sorry, that's my mistake.
Overall, though, getting to your Cushman, Wickman, Stevenson, and I have that reference too, with just the Bs. They have a 9.4% for vacancy and a 15.59 for net rent average. Asking.
Sorry, which page are we on here?
Page 14. It's the Cushman, Wakefield, Stevenson data below. So they experienced 9.4% for vacancy for Bs, and they're asking to the market net rent of 15.59, correct?
That is what their study indicates.
So from the perspective of if the board's going to explore a Class C, which in my opinion they shouldn't, as it's already been explored at the municipal board and was denied or rejected, if that's the way you want to term it. For an average rental rate for a C, it's $11.68, correct?
That is the average of the.
Would this not be an upper end C, a very upper end C, if it were to be considered as such? So would not that be greater than?
Well, again, I'm not making the argument that the subject property is a Class B. I'm indicating that it's a low end Class B.
But wouldn't $1 above the average C not be reasonable, which is roughly what was applied by the assessment parameters at $12.82?
Equally to $2.35 above the bottom end of Class B would be reasonable as well.
Moving on, just and I'll be brief as we go along. Vacancy you don't have an issue with at 11%. Okay. We're going on to your non-recoverables, and I know this has kind of been discussed so many times last cycle. I'm going to be very quick. Our methodologies are different. We don't include below line items, tenant inducements, tenant allowances, pre-rent, asset, all the rest.
Right. I was hopeful that we would each avoid questions on that particular
issue. Very quick. I see a lot of orders from the municipal board. I have 25 or so, and I didn't include them here.
We're not at the municipal board. We're not looking at municipal
I
board
know.
orders.
All I'm asking is, do you have a single order that indicates that we should be including those from the municipal board? There's a lot saying no, but we haven't had, I haven't seen one that says yes, please.
So this is, again, this is not material that is in front of us here today. What we're, and I'm not avoiding your question by any means, that particular issue is very significant and will be going forward at the municipal board as a test case essentially to decide. So I can't say that a decision from 2010 or 2006 is necessarily what we should be.
Let me rephrase it a different way. To your knowledge, to date, there has been no municipal board order indicating to include below line items to reduce a net operating income to something less than a net operating income is what we capitalize.
Well,
Again, I believe that's been asked and answered, and we're not dealing with.
and just to clarify, in case that has some sway, we're putting words in my mouth, which is, and I'm not saying you're doing it deliberately, but that is incorrect with regard to reducing the net to below net. That's simply not the case.
Okay, I'll move on from that point. Moving on to page 18. You're using Cushman, Wakefield, Colliers. We use a few more for capitalization rates. These are table rates, correct?
They are the rates provided in the biannual, essentially, or semi-annual studies that the two brokerages put out with regard to their perspective on the appropriate ranges for capitalization rates for individual classes based on investment grade properties.
Okay, and it's been, where our view is that is investment grade at being up from that. Do you have any direct comparisons, such as the one I've mentioned? It's been well known that there's been four that is sold, traded hands, and capitalization rates. Yeah, I'm exploring those.
We obviously explore everything that we can obtain the information on.
Right. With that, I don't believe I have any further questions. I'll have a brief summary statement and I'm being.
Just 1 second, I think Madam Chair, just
Slightly over time.
Sorry, I lost you guys for a minute. Is Mr. Moretsky back?
I'm here.
Anyone? Oh, there. Sorry, you had disappeared from my screen, so I didn't know if you were gone. Okay, sorry. I just wanted to make sure you didn't.
You disappeared
Sorry,
from my screen, huh?
Please continue with your question.
There you are.
Okay, sorry. Where were we, everybody? Before?
You were to ask us if we have any questions now.
Yes, no, I didn't know if the assessor and Mr. Smith were finished.
Yeah, they're done.
Yes. Oh, okay, sorry. Okay, Mr. Moretsky, do you have any questions for the applicant?
I have no questions.
Okay, thank you. Excuse me, Mr. Whitbread, do you have any questions?
I have one for the applicant on page 14, and I believe this may have been inferred in the question from the assessor. Are you saying clearly that these are all Class C buildings and not Class B buildings?
Well, I didn't specifically look for Class C buildings, so what we need to keep in mind, I guess, in looking at it is the comparability between the two. When we look at, say, 115 Bannatyne, this is a building built in 1899. It's a beautiful, beautiful renovated modern office building located just off of waterfront. So it is a Class C building, but it's far superior to the subject property. So yes, they are Cs.
Are you saying it's a Class C based on its age, not necessarily on its condition?
Age, size,
Okay.
yes.
So your comparables for the most part would be classed as C.
They would be classed as C, but again, there is crossover between categories. There's no hard line between B and C as a tenant on the marketplace. If you're out there looking and a space in a Class C building is better for you than one in a Class B building, you may pay more for that than you would necessarily.
I sort of got that understanding,
Yeah.
Trevor. May I ask a question of the assessor, Madam Chair, a backup question?
Yes.
So when we talk about Class C and Class B, does the model establishing what the cap rates are distinguish clearly between C and B, or is there overlap?
No, not when if it's a C, it's being incorporated as a C.
So C is a C, and it's evaluated or graded on that basis for a cap rate, for example.
Yeah, like for all rent, like you define them as such.
Thank you. No further question.
Thank you very much. My questions have been answered. So we are done with this matter, and we will move on to the next matter on the docket, which is 280 St. Mary Avenue. So perhaps we will just take a quick 5-minute recess while Ms. Schabel and the other applicants get ready. Okay. So if anyone needs
Okay, I do.
a couple of minutes.
Thank you.
5 minutes.
We are live, Madam Chair.
All right, thank you very much. The next matter on the docket is 280 St. Mary Avenue. Ms. Schabel, please proceed when you are ready.
File 22-3363. Roll number 120-932-45500. It's located 280 St. Mary Avenue. The owner is A3 Partners Limited. We are valuing the property as a stand of January 1st, 2021, based on economic condition of April, stand of January 1st, 2023, based on economic condition April 1st, 2021. This appeal is with respect to the amount of the assessed value only. Based on evidence in this report, it is assessor opinion that the market value of subject property as of April 1st, 2021, 1,327,000, in that the 2023 assessed value should be confirmed. The subject property right now, office building, but if you open page 2 of my brief, subject sale history was in August 2018 for 950,000. According to our records, the 2018 sale is arm's length, and we do not include for analysis as sale questionnaire indicate the properties was bought for redevelopment, and that all structure are going to be demolished at a cost of 80,000. The subject property located in downtown. You can see subject property picture started on page number 2, number 3, and number 4. It's rectangle shape of land around 12,000 square feet. On page number 5, I did presented zoning. The subject land, MM multi-use zone sector, intended to encourage the range of uses, sites, activities, and buildings type to a diverse and vibrant and central business district. The built form is also diverse, ranging from high-rise towers and portrait-made to more intimately scale building along Graham Avenue. Urban design review is intended to enhance pedestrian comfort and encourage high-quality building form. On next page, I have presented pair cell analysis or repeat cell analysis. First zoning commercial, site between 3,300 square feet to 34,000 square feet. My analysis showed that, for example, resale number 1, first sale was in 2016 and was resale of same piece of land in 2018. It showed that price difference 44.62%. Its number months between sale 25 months. So change percentage change per month 1.78%. Same analysis I did for another resale. Altogether, average change per month showed 1.78%, or media change per month 1.39%. It's for commercial building. On page number 7, I did another analysis for industrial building, industrial land. In this case, showed change, average change 0.91% per month, or media 0.87%. On page number 8, we can see a subject property market sale comparison approach, subject property land valuation, subject property located at South Portridge, assess lot area of 12,019 square feet, zoning multi-use sector, reference day April 1st, 2021, be assessed at 1,327,000, or assess lot size $109.76. Land sale comparables, I presented 7 land sale comparables. You can see it's the 4th of them and 7th located same South Portridge. It's Gary Street, on Gary Street, Hargrave, and Carlton. One my comparables number 5 located on Broadway, Assiniboine, and my comparables number 6, Pioneer, located 171 Portridge in Main neighborhood, and 7 semi-subject property 161 South Portridge. All sales sale was between 2015 2020. Different age, but with different size. But we can see media of my comparables, $169.50, and media $107.37. And we assess at $109.76 per square foot. On page number 9, same information about subject property, but we can see that subject property land influence. We have bus road, bus stop, external corner, heavy traffic. We going next on to page 12. It's our 2023 assess notice. I did presented information. Income expense mailer presented on us on following pages 13, 14, 15, 16. Okay, and we're going to page number 20. Let's look more closer to my land sale comparables. On page number 20, I put all my comparables on map, and with red dot, it's our subject property. You can see my comparables very close distance to the subject. Let's look one by one. On page 20, my first comparables on 286 Gary was sold in 2015 for $107.37. It's 2015, 6 years before reference date. It should be upward adjustment for time. My second comparables, 155 Gary Street, same neighborhood, sold in 2015 for $84.78, around 18,000 square feet. It's 6 years before reference date. It should be upward adjustment for time at least. And we from my previous study, we see that at least 1.9% per month should be adjustment. In commercial property, 1.2%, 1.73, yeah, 1 second. 1.39% for commercial property should be upward adjustment for time. On next page, my comparable number 3, 242 Hargrave, same neighborhood, sold in 2016 for $97.98. Should upward adjustment for 5 years prior to reference date. My comparable number 4, following up, it's Carlton, same neighborhood, sold in 2016 for $100.03. We're looking for 5 years upward adjustment for time. My comparables number 5 on next page, or 44 Hargrave, was sold in 2017 for $142.28. My comparables number 6 sold 2019, very close to reference date, and we can see it sold for $136.64. In my last comparable, same neighborhood, sold in 2020 in December, very close to subject property reference date for $518.43. So, based on evidence presented in my report, our land assessment of 1,327,000 or $109.76 per square foot and reasonable. It should be confirmed. Any questions?
Thank you very much. Mr. Smith, do you have any questions for the assessor?
Yes, just a few. Thank you, Madam Chair. So the subject property is being valued as land, correct?
Correct.
So when I look at your page 2, with regard to the discussion about the 2018 sale, it's an arm's length sale, and it was obviously purchased for the land value. Why does the city not look at this particular sale?
Because this building still not demolished.
Right, but they're not buying the building, they're buying the land.
But it was bought like land for development, and with demolition cost estimated around $30,000.
Okay, I will leave that. The paired sales analysis, so you're indicating average changes per month, median change over this period of time. For these 7 commercial sales, none of these properties are in the CBD, correct?
What does downtown? It's not support my evidence. It's just to show how much per month increase of land sale price.
Okay.
That's why I provide this per analysis and what available. When I choose this resale, I try to be secondary sale should be very close to the reference day, and still in 2018, 17, 2019, 2017. It's best what I found available for us.
Yeah, fair enough.
But it showed a media of 1.39% per month increase in price.
Okay, thank you.
Page 7, these are industrial land sales, is that correct?
My resale on page number 7, yes, it's industrial. We can see industrial a little bit less, it's 1.9% per month. And it is more bigger square footage, only my first sale, around 4,000 square feet and less around, for example, my comparable number 4, half thousand square feet. 533,000 square feet. It's commercial. In commercial, they not they only 1.87% per month going increase. In same, I look for sale in 2019, 2020, and I found one close to the reference day, March 21. It showed increase 1.97% for 30 months.
Okay, let's move on quickly to page number 8 then, the comparable sales. Four out of the sales are between 6 and 5 years pre-reference. Would it not make more sense to have transactions that occurred closer to the valuation date?
That's why I find
dramatic adjustment to sale prices.
I find best. I analyze all sale happening downtown, and closest was my sale 6 and 7, 2019, 2020. But my point, I have to show that it's a same neighborhood, for example, comparable 1 to 4, same neighborhood was subject property, how much it sell. And we can see close to reference day, my comparable number 6 sell for $136,064, and we assess $109.76. It's reasonable. It's below what showed.
Okay, so let's have a quick look at the transactions here then. So the subject property, a little over 12,000 square feet in the lot size. When I'm looking at the sales comps here, number 3 jumps out, 70,000 square feet. That would have significantly more development potential, would it not?
Yes, that's why it sell much less, $96.88. And plus we have to upward adjustment for 5 years for time adjustment.
Okay, 2 properties. Number 4, the Carlton Street roll number there, selling in 2016, and then the 236 Carlton, number 7. Those are both of those particular sales are both part of the land assembly for the True North office and hotel development. Is that correct?
Correct. In my comparable number 7, it's best comparable, same neighborhood, same square footage, very close to the reference date, and sold for $518.43.
I'm sorry, I do have to talk about that then. So are we comparing the sale of the last parcel of land essentially for the True North land assembly to the subject property?
That's why I presented 7 comparables. In average media of my comparable showed $107 per square foot, or media $169.50 per square foot. So our assessment $109, it's reasonable.
Okay.
Inside this media.
One last quick question. Land sale number 6, the one on Pioneer Avenue, that is the surface parking lot immediately adjacent to the MTS office tower fronting on Pioneer or Main. Is that correct?
Correct. And my comparable showed that land in downtown very valuable.
Those are all of my questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Moretsky. Do you have any questions for the assessor?
No, I do not.
Thank you, Mr. Whitbread. Any questions for the assessor?
I do. I'm looking at your page 8 with your land sales comparables and trying to understand, and you can maybe clarify for me, the $109.76 square foot value would be a model driven value. Is that correct?
Correct.
Would that factor in many more sales than what you've illustrated here to come up with that?
Correct. Our model is analyze all sale happening in Winnipeg. And I just presented bracket 7 sale only to support what we model.
Okay, so I understand the model uses all sales.
Yes, all sales, yeah.
So looking at your outliers, 5, 6, 7 on your land sales comparables, $518 a foot, 136, 142. Those are much higher value than the 109.76, but those would still be factored in, would they, into the model?
Yes, it will be factored in.
Okay. Okay. Thank you very much. No further questions.
Okay, thank you very much. I have no questions. So Mr. Smith, please proceed.
Okay, thank you, Madam Chair. So just before we begin, just a quick commentary with regard to some of the land sales. So the True North complex that was developed, obviously it's a multi-use development. You have very significant Class A office tower. We have residential on site. We have a hotel. There's commercial associated with it. It's the biggest thing that I think we can safely say has happened in downtown Winnipeg in many years. The process of developing that property is obviously assembling the land to complete the development on. Now, that quickly becomes apparent in the marketplace, and it drives values up. So when we look at the assessor's comparable number 4, Carlton Street, that was one of the original or one of the earlier or mid purchases, I guess, $100 a square foot for 6,000 square feet. And then we have purchase in 2020, which is also part of the True North development there, where they were seeking to put a hotel on the other side from the main development. The developer is essentially at the mercy of the vendor at that point as to what can be charged. So you get these situations where they pay $518 per square foot, which is not in any way defendable value in terms of a normal transaction in downtown. Land assemblies, by their very nature, drive higher values. So those two should be struck to start with. I'll get into my valuation. Looking at 280 St. Mary Avenue. So this is a former Legion building. I'll run you through this relatively quickly. Page 3 gives you some background on it. It has been valued as land for a good period of time. Reason for that is it's not occupiable. You cannot rescue this building. It has to be torn down. If we look at page 3, you will see that process. So it was Canadian Legion, originally built in 58, sold in 2000 to the Inocuan Training Institute to be redeveloped as a college. It was never occupied. Sat vacant through 2008, where it was sold to Longboat as a redevelopment site or potentially to rescue the building at that time. Was marketed for lease and redevelopment for many years. Exceptionally little interest in the property. and it was not in condition to be occupied. So there was essentially no interest in the sale or lease. Property traded again in 2018 for $850,000, arm's length sale, again as a redevelopment site. So they were buying the land for $850,000. And it has remained vacant since that time. It has deteriorated. None of the systems work. The roof is collapsing. There is water damage and toxic mold inside. I've been on site. You can't actually go in it now without the proper asking, etc., for the property. And it's been that way for many years now. So it's not viable, not redevelopable as it is. So that's the background. If we look at my chart on page 3, you can see the history of the assessments. Regular steps, again, many of them by agreement, either by 15-1 or accepting of discussion with the assessor. You can see in 2020, the property was reduced to $1,064,000, and that was again by agreement between the parties ahead of the hearing. Let's move on to the site shown on page number 4. It's located on the southeast corner of St. Mary and Smith Street, adjacent to the property, well, 260 St. Mary that we were discussing earlier, one of the leases is. So to orient yourself, the north side of St. Mary is where the police station is. The south side is where the small 3-story office building is, 260 St. Mary. Beside that, to the west, is 280 St. Mary, the former Legion. So it sits on that southeast corner. To the south of the subject property is 180 Smith Street, former Manitoba Housing building that has been redeveloped into an apartment facility. So it's hemmed in where it is. There's no land surrounding it. You can't acquire other land to build upon. You're simply at this 12,000 square foot site. So you can't expand it and have a bigger development. That limits the potential for the subject. Let's move on to the valuation itself. So land in downtown Winnipeg, obviously fully built out, nearly 100% for quite some time. So what we have for sales is either transactions of surface parking lots or properties such as the subject where the property was bought for the land value. So what we have here on my page 8 is a study of the most recent sales of parking lots that have good comparability to the subject property. As you can see, all of our sales are quite close to the valuation date, all occurring in 2019. Limited change between that period of time and the valuation date. So let's look at the sales here. First one, 170 Bannatyne. This is close. It is half block east of Main Street, 1 block north of Portage and Main. Transacting at $95 a square foot, very similar in lot size to the subject. Then we have 127 Bannatyne, east of Rory, adjacent to some of the good comparables that I had in my brief earlier for office comps for the redeveloped property on Bannatyne there. This is the parking lot for that October 2019 sale, very similar size, $95 a foot roughly. Another one on waterfront adjacent to that, same time frame, $105 a foot. And finally, 240 St. Mary in 2019. This is located to the east of the subject property across Gary Street. $129 a square foot. Let's look at this sale. So it's 3,000 square feet, considerably smaller than the subject. typically driving higher rates. What it is actually the purchase of the gravel parking that is adjacent to Mitzi's Chicken Fingers at the southeast corner of Gary and St. Mary. It was a purchase of the two properties were purchased, obviously the lot as well as the building. So ultimately that will be a redevelopment site. Drives both the small size as well as the development potential drive the price that we're looking at there. So that is the background. When we look at land sale or a sale where we have a building that can't be occupied versus the purchase of surface parking lots, they are different things. So the gap there is that when you have a parking lot, you're earning an income, generating an investment return during your holding period. So that property will produce income for you over the period that you hold it before you either trade it or redevelop it yourself. So it's not a dormant or non-producing asset, whereas vacant land itself is does not produce any revenue for the owner. So there is a gap there, and vacant land would trade for a lower sale price indicator than would an investment such as a surface parking lot where you're generating a return. So what is our range that we're looking at here? Dominantly, we're looking between $95 and $105 a square foot for these most recent sales, all well located properties with strong demand for use of them as surface parking lots. Very similar in size to the subject property, between 9,000 and 12,000 square feet. We're kicking out 240 St. Mary here. So where should it fall? It should be at the lower end of the range at $95 a square foot. And that would take into account any lift that we would see between that period, as well as between the sale dates here to the valuation date of April 1, 2021. Let's look at that time frame in downtown Winnipeg. Is what's happening in downtown Winnipeg in April 2021. Obviously, COVID has hit. There's virtually no sales of properties transacting. Investors are spooked. Land sales are not spiking. We're not seeing any dramatic change. We're essentially seeing investors sitting on their hands, waiting to see what the end result of our situation at that point in time would be. So we certainly feel $95 a square foot is appropriate. It's very well supported by these most recent sales, all of which are well located. And this produces our final value of $1,149,000. And if you look at my page number 2, you can see that this falls very directly in line with the history of the assessment for the property. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much. Ms. Schabel, do you have any questions for Mr. Smith?
No questions.
Thank you. Mr. Moretsky, do you have any questions for Mr. Smith?
Yeah, I just wanted to back to something you had mentioned earlier on page 8. Maybe I didn't hear it correctly, so I just like to get it clarified.
Yeah.
So you had the first 3 properties, 1, 2, and 3, that were parking lots, correct?
Correct. All 4 of them are parking lots.
All 4 of them are parking lots?
All 4 of them are parking lots.
But you had mentioned we want to dismiss 240 St. Mary out of your equation below. What was the reasoning for that?
So 240 St. Mary, 2 reasons. the initial one is the size of the property. It's roughly a quarter of the size of the subject. I do recognize it's close in proximity to the subject, but beyond that, the parking lot here was purchased in connection with the adjacent building, which is Mitzi's Chicken Fingers. It's an institution that's been there on that corner for I don't know how many years. It's been purchased as a longer-term development site, essentially. So you're combining two properties in a land assembly, which, as I stated earlier regarding the True North development, it drives greater values than one would typically get on the marketplace.
Is there a particular reason why you chose parking lots for your comparison, other than other land sales?
Yes, absolutely. So are there other commercial land sales in the city? There are, but none of them are downtown. The downtown has been essentially fully developed for many years. So the only vacant parcels of land that we find are these surface parking lots in downtown. And I believe if you look at the city's comparables, they're all surface parking lots as well. So we're on the same page with that.
Okay. Thank you very much. No further questions.
Thank you. Mr. Whitbread, do you have any questions for Mr. Smith?
I do. You show the building built in 1929, and yet it's 58.
That's a mistake. It's 58.
Oh, 58?
Yeah.
Maybe I wrote it
sorry.
down wrong.
Did I put that?
But there are improvements, obviously, by looking at the photos. On page 6 of your brief, you show a $336 amount. Is that an estimate or is that been spent?
I'm sorry, I think we're looking at different briefs here. My apologies.
I'm
because on my page 6.
So it's definition of market value. That's what I have on page 6.
Different property there. I'm not sure, but
124? Yes?
We're 280 St. Mary. Sorry.
My problem.
No problem.
I'm sorry. Got ahead of myself.
No worries.
Okay. No, I'm fine. Question answered.
Okay.
Oh, okay. Thank you. I have no further questions. Is there a need for summary from either party?
No, thank you.
No, thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, let's move on to the next matter, which is, 124th Street. Ms. Shable? Please.
Thank you. File number 22-3618, roll number 12093076000. It's located at 124th Street, owner 310434, Manitoba Limited. We are valuing the property as it stands of January 1st, 2023, based on economic condition of April 1st, 2021. This appeal is with respect to the amount value only.
Sorry.
Based on the evidence in this report, it is assessor opinion that the market value of subject property as of April 1st, 2021 is $1,770,000. In that, the 2023 assessed value should be confirmed. We have office building with effective years built 1950, located same location, 161 South Portridge, have multiple use. Subject property has leases, existing leases, but it's gross leases. On page number 2, my subject property leases I posted. They are following with property picture. On page number 3 and 4, we can see it's a rectangular shape of size, located, it's a 2-floor building. On page number 5, more photo of subject property. My rent comparables presented of page number 6. I presented 12 comparables, same neighborhood in downtown. Years built, old building between 1906, before 1915 or 22. Leases started. I presented different type of leases from 2014 to 2020. Area between 1.5 thousand square feet to 6,000 square feet. So my mean of 13 comparables, $14.01. In my media, $13.75. On page number 7, we have subject property has parking lot, 35 stalls. We assess its monthly net units rent per stall, $18. So annual net rent, $33,600. We use 4.5 capitalization rate. Our estimate value of parking income, $747,000. On bottom, we can see comparables property 2020 reported rental rate for surface parking. We will look on last column, stabilized net operating income per stall per month. I presented 14 different comparables, and we can see media came across $92.78 mean, and media $92.24. We assess it's $18, so it's reasonable. On page number 8, reasonable and fair. On page number 8, office building, we already saw that my media of 13 comparables was around $14 per square foot. We assess it's less than $10 per square foot, $9.63. We did apply 15% vacancy loss, 3% not operating expenses, shortfall $8. So our net operating income $56,337. Our capitalization rate 7.15%. So estimate value of office income, office value $768,000. On following page number 9, our summary. Estimate value of subject property $1,535,000. How much it will be for 1 second? It's less as our assessed value because our model took land value for this property also, because it's old property. On page number 12, notice what we sent for 2023 for property assessment. On following page, income expenses mailer prior to reference day through page 13 and further, we can see 160,000. They reported 160,000 income, and we use income, potential income 114,000. But it's, okay, 1 second. I have more picture on page number 18. It was provided by owner, corner of building. And let's go to page 21, look specific to my comparables. First comparables, Wesley Avenue, 400 units. It's built in 1922. Lease was started in 2014 for $11.50. I have several comparables on Notre Dame. It's 2-floor building. Notre Dame or Portridge Avenue, it's different location in same building and facing Portridge. We can see the trend between $10 to $19 per square foot. We assess less as $10 per square foot. On page number 23, my comparables on Lombard. Building built in 1906 was rent for $13 per square foot, around 4,000 square feet. On page 24, 123 Bannatyne Avenue, we can see comparables on main floor and fourth floor. The rent around 3.5 thousand and 4.3 thousand square feet, $17.30 or $14 on fourth floor. My comparables, that's it, yeah. Mm-hmm. So based of my evidence, it's assessor opinion, the subject property value of $1,770,000 is fair and should be confirmed. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. Do you have any questions for the assessor?
Yes, just quickly. So the assessed value for the subject property is for 2023 is $1,770,000. And when we look at the income value summary of both income streams, the estimated market value is $1,535,000. What is the delta there? Just wondering.
Because if model, if assessed value of income less al subject land price, it's default to land price. So it shows that this building needs some investment and higher rent to defend this property. But land value, so right now it's $1,770,000. And we can see that rent less than $10 per square foot, but my comparable showed $13 per square foot at least.
Okay, so the actual assessment is based on land value, but we don't have any land value evidence here in the brief, do we?
No, we don't have. I didn't present it, but I showed that it's income very low because market rent much higher than our right now in our model. We have to update records for this property.
Okay, I really don't want to ask all of these questions, but so let's look at the rents then on page number 6. And I believe I actually have a higher rent, but just to clarify that, so rent comparables 1 through 10 here. This is the Curry building located roughly a half block west of Portage and Main. Is that correct for each of those comparables? Yes. Okay. And number 11 is the Grain Exchange. And then 123 Bannatyne is the redeveloped, beautiful heritage office building just off of Waterfront. Is that correct?
Correct. That was as a rent for $17.30.
Okay. Thank you. And last question on page number 7. So the very first comparable here with regard to surface parking rates, 170 Fort, that is the subject's parking that's being valued here today. Is and the rate there is, as you've stabilized it, just under $64 per month. Is that correct?
Second. This 174th Street, it's completely different roll number. It's not subject property.
Okay, so the subject has parking that is on its roll number. Immediately abutting that to the north is 174th. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Those are all of my questions. Thank you.
Sorry. Thank you. Excuse me. Mr. Moretsky, do you have any questions for the assessor?
Yes, I'm a little confused about the land issue there. What evidence are we supposed to be looking at here when we're analyzing whether the assessment is fair or not? You're saying the land is worth $1.7 million, and that's what we're supposed to be looking at?
Yes, correct.
So this other evidence that you provided really doesn't support that, correct?
My evidence support that rent I provided on page number 8 for subject office should be much higher, not less than $10. It showed around $13 per square foot. If we update these records, it will be support 1.7 million. I missed this part, sorry.
Okay. So you didn't want to use that higher rental rate. Why is that?
Because it's right now in our system and I have to go back and update this record. It's my mistake.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I have no further questions.
Thank you. Mr. Whitbread, do you have any questions?
Well, it follows on that, if you can help me. When you have $1,770,000 value by the model, do you know what square footage the model used? Is it the 18,559 square feet?
Correct. X,363 for building, white land. It's on my page number 1.
Bear with me,
It's 18,059 square feet. It will be.
Yes, so it's the 1,770,000 using 18,059 square feet. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay.
If we divide 177 by land, 18. Sorry, I missed this part. It will be $98 per square foot. And we saw my comparables in previous case. It's around more than $100 per square foot.
Okay, I understand that now. Thank you. No further questions.
Thank you. My questions have been answered. Mr. Smith, please proceed with your presentation.
Okay, thank you, Madam Chair. So just to start with, on that issue, we have essentially no evidence before us today with regard to support of the assessment of $1,770,000. There's been no land sale comparables presented, so we're left with kind of a gulf of information there in supporting that particular value. Let's look at the subject property as it is. My cover page gives you a photo of the subject property on the south side, so the left side of the photo, with the associated parking beside it. I gather that a portion of that parking lot becomes 174th, which is one of the assessor's comparables at $63.93 a square foot in sale, or rather per stall per month, is what that particular immediately abutting property is renting out for on a net basis. So we'll get to that. Let's quickly look at my page 3. The 2023 assessment, $1,770,000, is an increase of 44% for the subject property, $541,000 over the 2020 assessment, which was reduced to $1,229,000 at the board of revision. It is a Class D building built in 1929, structure is of 1929. We have 35 stalls, site area of just over 18,000 square feet, and 8,363 square feet of leasable area. Photographs of the property are on page 4 and 5. Unfortunately, we didn't include any of the interior. It is older. It is dated. Obviously, the interior is not of 1929 vintage, but it's a Class D tired office building downtown. That is what we're looking at from a tenant's perspective. What will you pay for that to lease space in this building? So let's look at my page number 6. The actual property has significant deferred maintenance. This is related to its ability to generate revenue to fund all of these particular issues. Has an ongoing annual roof maintenance that is not sufficient, and it requires a full roof replacement. They've been quoted roughly $90,000 to replace the roof. Other deferred maintenance, window replacement. They do have water penetration, and we're looking at a little under $85,000 there. The mechanical, $118,550, and then there's also asphalt repair, replacement, and electrical for the parking lot of just under $44,000. So a total of $336,572 in investment that needs to go into the building in its current format. On the marketplace, the rents are what they are. So buildings like this end up in these situations. Now, let's look at the site and the location. So page number 7 gives you the site itself on 4th Street, just north of Broadway, with the adjacent parking. And 174 must be that narrow strip of parking just to the north of the subject. I did check it out, and that is what it was. The location shown on page number 8, again, just north of Broadway, towards that east end of Broadway. So if you go down Fort there, it is obviously our downtown is more built up towards the west. 4th Street has more surface parking, has more older buildings, etc. And this falls in line with that particular location. So that is what we're looking at in terms of the subject property. Now, how do we value this? Well, the building is on site is a Class D office building. It is capable of producing revenue and generating return, just not the return that's being projected for it. So we can't value it as land. It's not a land that it's not a building that is unable to produce a return for the owner. Let's look at my page number 11 when we can get into the valuation. So subject property leases, we have 4. One's a bit of an anomaly. The rates are shown there for you, as well as in the income and expense information in the addenda. So we have gross rental situation. Once we deduct the operating expenses, the actual net rental rates fall in that $4.19, $6.80, $7 square foot range, with the one on the upper end of $18.33. Obviously an anomaly. We're representing only a portion of the building. So what should the building rent for on the marketplace? Well, it's not located close to Portage and Main like the Curry building. We have a Class D building. Let's compare it to similar properties. So page number 11 You can see our comparables here. We try and choose the most comparable possible, as close in proximity as possible, as close to the actual valuation date. So 428 Portage, pardon me, 2018 lease for 1928 building, $10.38 a square foot. This is the power building located immediately adjacent to Hudson Bay Company building on Portage Avenue. Very well maintained, Class C property, multi-story. It is a traditional office building. 211 Bannatyne, redeveloped building, 1905, original age, 2017 lease for $10 a square foot for 4,000 square feet, similar to our one unit. $10 a square foot. 90 Gary, $10 a square foot. 155 Fort, so close in proximity. 1928. This is located between St. Mary and York on the east side of Fort, 1 block north of the subject. 1928 age, $10 a square foot for office space there. You can see our range is that $10 to $11 a square foot. So where would the subject fall in what we're looking at? These are frankly very good comparables. I was quite pleased with what we were able to find in comparison to the subject for this particular analysis. We don't have Class D rents being shown by any of the brokerages. The subject is an older building. It's Class D. It's tired. It's going to get about $10 a square foot on the subject on the market, which is frankly higher than it's actually getting when we look at the net rents on page number 11. So keep in mind, we're attributing greater rental value to this than the property produces. We've used market stats to assign a vacancy rate of 11%. Again, we don't have Class D rates here, but Class D C rates downtown are showing us between 13 and 19%. We've used 11. And there has been some vacancy in the property over time. Our expense allowance issue is covered. Shortfall, we've used $10 a square foot, and we can move on to the capitalization rate. So again, we don't have transactions necessarily of Class D buildings here. What we have are the market stats for investment grade properties from the brokerages, Class A and B, which will certainly be superior to the subject. Ranges downtown going from 6 to 7% for these Class B properties, dramatically different investment opportunity than the subject. Our cap rate study, as provided at the bottom of page 15, gives you an indicator of what investors are willing to pay for office properties in Winnipeg. We have a low end of 6.5% for premium suburban office building in Southwest Winnipeg, trading in 2019 up to 10%, but with quite a number of them in that 6 to 8% range. The subject property has significant deferred maintenance. It has lower than market rental rates. 8% is certainly a conservative estimate in valuing the property. So this is summarized on page 16 with our valuation. The rental rate at $10, 11% vacancy, and a cap rate of 8% gives us $750,000 for the building portion of the property. With regard to the parking portion of the property, we've assigned a rate of $70 per stall on a net basis for the valuation. in following the standard City of Winnipeg modeling or methodology rather. We've assigned $70 per stall. If we look at the City of Winnipeg's evidence, the immediately adjacent parking lot is producing $63.93 per stall per month. I think that's fair. And we've kept it at the same 4.5% cap rate. It's $653,000. Combining the two portions gives us final market value of $1,403,000 as of the valuation date. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much. Ms. Shavel, do you have any questions for Mr.
Yes,
Smith?
please. Page 11 of agent brief. Your comparable number 2, everyone's there?
Yes?
Yes,
Your comparables number 2 to 11 Bannatyne, it's condo units building, correct?
I'm sorry, I didn't quite catch that.
Your comparables on 211 Bannatyne,
Yeah.
it's a condo units building, correct?
Condo units building?
Yes.
No, I don't believe so.
211. And it's condominium
Well, that's possible.
in our system.
I don't have the remainder of the details sitting in front of me or the ability to search it, but it's possible. But the lease that's in place there is as stated.
And your comparables number 4, 1554, it's an apartment multi-use building, correct?
155 Fort?
Mm-hmm.
No, it is not. 155
Oh,
Fort.
sorry, 90 Gary. Number 3 and number 5, 90 Gary, it's an apartment multi-use building, correct?
It is, so 90 Gary is located on the west side of Gary Street, across from the Hotel Fort Gary. It is dominantly an apartment building with main floor commercial space.
And your comparables showed more or less $10 per square foot market rent for subject property, correct?
We're showing a range between $10 and $11 a square foot to help us frame the appropriate net rental rate in the market for the subject.
So our model driving less than $10 per square foot, very low in our system, correct?
Well, frankly, your model actually more closely mimics the actual net rental rates that they're achieving, which are between $4 and $7 a square foot for the most part, with an average of $8.67 a square foot, as shown on my page 11.
And it is model driven, my model driven parameter bring low that land value. Your comparables on number 15, you didn't provide address of your comparables for capitalization rate. I cannot verify them, correct?
No, you're certainly not. They're not difficult to track down. This is not unusual. I'm happy to provide them now if we want to go through that for the panel.
Your report Cushman, Phil and Colliers for downtown buildings showed between 5.5 to 7%, correct? On page number 15, we're still there. Investment grade properties.
Well, so let's look at that. So the Class A CBD properties, Cushman is showing a low end of 5.5%. So there's formerly 3, now 4 Class A properties in downtown Winnipeg, with the addition of True North Place, the remainder being at Portage and Main, which we're all aware of. So no, it doesn't range from 5.5 to 7. We're looking at an entirely different class if we're looking at that. The ranges that are shown there for downtown are class A and B, simply because the brokerages don't track anything below that.
No questions.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Moretsky, do you have any questions for Mr. Smith?
I do not.
Thank you. Mr. Whitbread, any questions for Mr. Smith?
No, I'm fine, thank you.
Okay, nor do I. Okay, thank you very much. Is there a need for summary from either party?
No, thank you.
No, thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. The next matter on the docket is 323 Portage Avenue. Does anyone need a quick recess?
Could I have a 5-minute break? I need to make one phone call.
Yes, of course.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll take a short recess. Thank you. Okay, thank you very much. The next matter on the docket is 323 Portage Avenue. Ms. Scheibel, please proceed when you're ready.
File number 22-3338. Roll number 130-5231-6000. Address at 323 Portage Avenue. Owner Carpathia Credit Union Limited. We are valuing the property as is stand of January 1st, 2023, based on the economic condition of April 1st, 2021. This appeal is with respect to the amount of the assessed value only. Based on evidence in this report, it is assessor opinion that the market value of subject property as of April 1st, 2021 is 5,238,000, and that the 2023 assessed value should be confirmed. It's on my page number 1. We can see that office building, named the Dayton Building, land area of 11,362 square feet, plan area of building 10,586 square feet, basement 11,160 square feet, gross floor area over 53,000 square feet, estimate leasable area 43,732 square feet. It's located in neighborhood 168 Portage Ellis neighborhood, built in 1955. On page number 2, start a photo of my subject property, location in downtown. More photo on page 3 and 4. It's we can see it's a 3-floor building facing Portage. On page number 5, I provide 14 sale comparables for the subject property. My comparables located 168 Portage Avenue from 1 to 9, same like subject property. And from 10 to 11, it's located in 170 Exchange District. And my media showed $16.05. My means showed $16.05 for 14 comparables. In media, $15.75. We will go back, came back to rent comparables in further. Let's look on page number 6, our assessment for the subject property. We assessed 43,732 square feet of leasable area at $11.65. So our net income, potential rent, around 510,000. We apply $12% vacancy loss, 3% expenses, shortfall $10 per square foot. Our net operating income, 82,000. Overall capitalization rate 7.3%. How we came across estimated value of subject property 5,238,000. On page number 10, это property assessment notes. From 11 page, we started income expense mailer supported to us. On page 16, this office in size 2013, I came across office for lease. So it is owner try to lease this property. On page 18, another. On first Young, advice on Young, try to lease property, one space. On page 18, Cushman Wakefield, try to lease this property, size 2013. Let's specific look at my rent comparables. On page 22, several of my comparables, same building on Portridge Avenue, facing two-floor buildings, like in previous case. It's between $11 and $21.50 per square foot. It's old building, built in same like subject property. On page number 23, several floor building on Lombard, rent for $13 per square foot in ended 2018. On page 24, two comparables on Bannatyne, rent $14 and $17.30. On page number 25, my comparables on 115 Bannatyne on 4th floor, rent for $21.50. My comparables on page number 26, 136 Market Avenue, units 340 on 3rd floor, rent in 2018 for $21 per square foot. Based on evidence presented at T3 board, it's assessor opinion, the subject property market value of subject property of April 1st, 2021 is 5,238,000, and that the 2023 assessed value should be confirmed. Any questions?
Thank you very much. Mr. Smith, do you have any questions for the assessor?
Sorry, just a moment, Madam Chair.
No problem.
So in the back part of your brief there, pages 16, 17, 18, 19 through 21, I guess it is, you have marketing materials from the leasing agents at the time for the property, and they're indicating that they're looking for gross rates of $15 and $12 a square foot for the subject. Is that correct?
Yes, in 2013.
Yeah.
And we assessed 2021. We have to upward adjustment for time for 7 years.
Right.
I present this lease just to see more information about building. We can see floor plans.
Okay, so we're in agreement on the rent, so I didn't really want to delve into this too much, but the rental comparables on page number 5 are all showing significantly greater net rents. We've got the Curry building again, the redeveloped 115 Bannatyne, 136 Market, also Shelter Canadian, where Skip the Dishes is, across from MTC. Would this not indicate that these are better buildings than the subject in terms of their ability to generate higher market rents?
This building very close proximity to the subject property, and we assess. I'm showed how much lease in similar type of lease space, okay, and close to subject property, and we can see it's much higher that we assess. So our assessment generated by model, it's fair and should be confirmed.
Okay, those are all of my questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Moretsky. Do you have any questions for the assessor?
I do not.
Thank you. Mr. Whitbread, any questions for the assessor?
None, thank you.
Thank you, nor do I. Mr. Smith, please proceed with your presentation.
Okay, thank you, Madam Chair. So the property that we're dealing with here, 323 Portage Avenue, this is was originally known as the Dayton Building. It's on the north side of Portage Avenue. Pardon me. It was originally Dayton, like it was a store like Eaton's, but on a smaller scale. Let's look at my page number 3. We have a 2023 assessment of $5,238,000. Our market value that we have for the subject property is $3,156,000. So you're going to look at that and say, well, that's an enormous delta. That can't be right. Well, let's look at that and see the reasons for this. All of them are well supported, and we'll run through this relatively quickly. So the subject property was originally built in 1955. It is a 3-story building, has a total leasable area of 34,553 square feet. Reason that it's 34,553 is that the basement is not a leasable space. It is there, 7,064 square feet, according to the City of Winnipeg data that I've taken directly from their online website. So it's not 11,180, 7,064 square feet. However, it's not leasable space. At the very most that one could do, it would be storage space in the basement. So you're not going to lease the space in the basement. I have this discussion on an ongoing basis, and it's simply not the case. If you look at probably in my addenda too, but just to make things easier, we look at the City of Winnipeg's information. We'll see if it talks about the overall size of the building. Don't believe it does. So let's look quickly in my addenda on, hopefully I have it here, on page number A7. Which is in the addenda. This, and we'll get to this. This is part of a sale brochure for the subject property, 323 Portage Avenue. If you go down in that chart on page A7, you can see that the brokers for the property are listing the rentable area as 27,671 square feet, plus mezzanine of 6,882 square feet, which they don't consider part of it leasable area, but we do for the purposes of this valuation. And then basement of 7,064 square feet. So finally, I do have materials in my brief that clearly demonstrate that basement space is not space that you're going to generate a lease rate on. If it were leasable, they would lease it. They're in the business of generating return as owners. So that clearly indicates that the actual leasable area is smaller than that, as stated by the city at 43,732. We've included the mezzanine, which you don't always, in this case we have. And we have a total leasable area of 34,553 square feet. Now, to the important parts, The subject property was taken back by the mortgage lender in December of 2020 for mortgage default. This is actually mentioned in the City of Winnipeg's brief in the income and expense material that was supplied on page number 11. You can read that there. At the time of repossession, the building was fully vacant. It had been largely vacant prior to that time frame. They did secure one tenant in early 2020, which was Snap Fitness. As you can see from our photo on the cover of our brief, Snap Fitness leased space on the main floor, not the whole floor, is my understanding. And I believe they moved in or were moving in when COVID hit. And subsequently, their operation went bankrupt, and they vacated that space without ever paying rent on it. Property has had some owner-occupied tenancy on the main floor in prior years. For a brief period of time, it was a sports bar, which was unsuccessful, but it has been largely vacant for an extended period of time. The subject property is marketed for sale at $4 million as a redevelopment opportunity. Now, this is shown in my addenda beginning on page A1. You can see the brochure for sale for the subject property, listing it at $4 million, with the background it being the Dayton's building. They discuss different potential options for redevelopment, but at no time are they indicating that the property can be occupied as is. That's because it can't be occupied as is. It's also advertised at a lease rate of $8.50 a square foot. That is optimistic and without any tenant improvements being offered. That is take it as it is, and the tenant builds the space out for themselves. Again, property is not currently in an occupiable condition. The property owner has indicated that there's significant deferred maintenance that has to be dealt with before the property would be occupiable, including a new hydro vault that would need to be installed and relocated to a different location. Property needs a new roof, it needs new windows, new HVAC, new electrical, etc. This is a very big redevelopment cost to doing all of these things. And you're looking at a property that's only 35,000 square feet in leasable area, roughly. The estimated cost to bring the building back to a habitable state range between $3.5 million and $10 million to bring it to an occupiable state for those deferred maintenance issues. Now, with regard to the sale, the discussions with the listing broker have indicated that $4 million is not the price point that the market is willing to pay. There are no takers at that particular point. I did have discussion with the brokerage with regard to my valuation of the property, and they were not in disagreement with the level that I determined for the market value for the subject property. So that's the background of the property. The site is shown on page number 4, located northeast corner of Hargrave and Portage, on the north side of Portage. Page 5 gives you the location. Let's move into the valuation of the subject. I'm going to save us all some time here. We're not in disagreement with the rental rate that the city has applied to it. We are in disagreement with the comps that have used, but we're not in disagreement with the rental rate. So we've assigned the rental rate of $11.65 a square foot. Our comparables are shown on page number 8. All recent start dates, all good quality properties, well tenanted, etc., located in the CBD area, and our range is between $11 and $12.80 a square foot. We believe the $11.65 is probably a generous estimate of the rental rate for the subject. Class C, I will just point out, Cushman Wakefield is indicating Class C space at an average of $11.68 a square foot. So strong support for that particular number. It is currently being marketed for rent at $8.50. Again, that's without any additional input from the from the property owner. Vacancy, again, subject property is fully vacant since 2020. It has been largely vacant over the last decade. The local owner who purchased it in 2005, as I'd said, he had a number of his own operations in the building. Very little in terms of leasing in that property over that time frame, and we've since had obviously deterioration and deferred maintenance stack up on it. So I don't necessarily have each individual year's vacancy, but it was largely vacant for again many years. The chart in the middle of page 10 gives you the vacancy stats. Downtown Class C, between 13 and 20%, roughly 19.5%. The subject, fully vacant, not leasable in its current state, lots of vacancy over time. We're asking for a vacancy rate of 20%, which is lower than the maximum 25% vacancy allowance of the city of Winnipeg. Is it chronic vacancy? Yes, it is chronic vacancy, and it should be reflected in the value. Expense allowance we've discussed. Shortfall is what it is at $10 a square foot, and we can move on to capitalization rate. Again, we're in agreement with the city of Winnipeg's capitalization rate. I will provide addresses here if needed for the cap rates. I've noticed a tendency for things to go askew in recent decisions. If I have not provided that, it's simply a confidentiality issue, but given that, certainly something we can provide to back up what we're indicating are true representations of cap rate in the marketplace. So we have 185 Sherbrooke, which is south of Broadway, 1000 Waverly, property on Waverly, very well tenanted, modern building. 294 Portage, Somerset Place, adjacent to MTS Center at 8.7%, 2031 Portage, 200 Portage, and 444 St. Mary are addresses. So again, cap rate, we're not in disagreement. We've accepted the 7.3% that the city has utilized. So we can flip forward to my page number 14, summarizes our valuation. You can see the leasable area is different. You can understand why now. I've provided the support from the selling broker for the subject property. Vacancy obviously higher. There's a reason for that. It matches the market stats as well. And we cap our net operating income at 7.3%, giving us $3,156,000. So is it a significant gap between the city's assessment And our valuation, yes, it is. There's reasons for that. And unfortunately, the city's model isn't going to know all of these things when it's coming up with the initial assessment. It simply sees a Class C building located on Portage Avenue and runs its model as it is. It does not account for vacancy, and unfortunately, it's adding 11,000 square feet to the leasable area, which is not appropriate. Again, properties marketed for sale at $4 million without any interest at that particular level. That is my presentation, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much, Ms. Shable. Do you have any questions for Mr. Smith?
Yes, please. Open addenda of agent report, A1. My question, this posting for Colliers redevelopment opportunity in downtown, it's still, its current condition, it's still for sale, correct?
It is, yes.
So it's post-reference or when it was presented on the market? What date it was posted for sale?
I do not recall the date that it was posted, but that's certainly a possibility. But what we're indicating is that there is no market for the building at $4 million.
Okay, could you open page A3 of this redevelopment for sale?
Yeah.
Everyone here? Investment overview. Everyone there?
Yes.
Let's look in asking price 4 million, and let's look on rentable area. First, basement 7,064 square feet. Main floor 8,602 square feet. Mezzanine 6,882 square feet. Second floor 9,298 square feet. And first floor 9,771 square feet. So its rentable area basement is exist. That's why we assess it.
So I'll answer your question. Yeah, does the basement exist? Yes, the basement clearly exists. It is there. And I think I've covered this adequately, but let's look in more detail at what you've described here, page A3. So in the discussion in the initial paragraph, Dayton building is a 3-story, 27,671 square foot rentable square foot building. So that is your rentable area according to the the selling agents, very well experienced in the marketplace. They have not included the mezzanine, which is very common in the leasable area for the subject property. We have included the mezzanine in the leasable area for the subject, but very clearly the basement space is not rentable area. In addition, the area that they're showing, as I am, which is taken directly from City Winnipeg records, is 7,064 square feet versus the 11,180 square feet that the City of Winnipeg is showing.
Open page number 6 of my brief. Basement area last premise. It's less than 8,000 square feet. Okay, no further questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Moretsky, do you have any questions for Mr. Smith?
Yeah, my apologies if you already covered this, but so do you have any insight or knowledge as to why the basement is not rentable?
So, well, it's, pardon me. It is, it's a basement to start with. In office buildings, it is, and retail buildings in general, commercial buildings, it is, it's not that there aren't basement spaces that exist out there. Certainly buildings used to be built with basement space for storage, which is what basically the only use that they're typically put to. You don't see tenancies of office space or retail space generally going into basement space. They won't have windows. They won't have proper exits. They won't have number of things that are required for occupancy. They're not built out in that fashion. Again, at most, it would be storage space. It's just a function of the market.
Okay, thank you. No further questions.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Whitbread, do you have any questions for Mr. Smith?
I have none, thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. I have no questions either. Is there any need for a summary from either party?
No, thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. The next matter is, sorry, let me just check. I believe it's 829 Portage Avenue.
Yes, Madam Chair. Madam Chair, I want to bring it to your notice, sir, that the evidence from the applicant was received within the 1 day delay.
So, sorry, can you repeat that, please?
The evidence for this property was with the 1 day delay from the applicant.
So I can speak to that if you wish, Madam Chair.
Please.
So it was actually about 28 minutes late, not 1 day, but obviously it's marked 1 day late. I did not have the city's evidence or anything of that nature. It was just marginally late. I'm hopeful that's not an issue. Certainly, if we look at today's hearing, the first property we dealt with, 275 Portage, I didn't receive that information from the Board of Revision at all. I received it ultimately from the assessor. So hopefully that's not an issue here.
Okay, so just to clarify, the applicant's information, you're saying it was submitted, it's marked late, you're saying it was submitted about a half hour late, is that correct, Mr. Smith?
Yeah, it was before 5 o'clock.
Okay. Mr. Moretsky, do you have any questions?
I'm sorry, I'm a little lost here.
Okay.
I couldn't hear what was initially said. So.
Okay, I just recapped it as well. So essentially, Mr. Smith, or I guess the information for the applicant is recorded as being late. Okay, and Mr. Smith just spoke to the fact that he submitted it about a half hour or so late. So it was submitted the day it was due, just after 4:30. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. However, if it's after 4:30, I believe it's just marked late and recorded as the next business day. Is that correct, Mr. Kumar?
That's right.
Okay, so I guess we will have to just take a short, just to discuss whether or not we're going to accept the evidence.
May I bring information? I did submit this evidence on September 14, 2022 and 3:46 p.m.
Okay.
So
your evidence was marked as being on time, as far as I understand.
Okay,
so that wasn't an
yeah,
issue.
I just want to confirm.
Yeah. Thank you.
We are live, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much. Okay. We have discussed the matter, and based on the information presented, we will allow the assessor, or I'm sorry, the applicant's evidence. The applicant may present his evidence.
Thank you.
Thank you. So, Ms. Scheibel, we are now at 829 Portage Avenue. Please proceed.
File number 22-3326. Roll number is 130 32230 Address is 829 Portage Avenue. Owner is National Development Limited. We are valuing the property as a stand of January 1st, 2023, based on the economic condition of April 1st, 2021. This appeal is with respect to the amount of the assessed value only. Based on the evidence in this report, it is assessor's opinion that the market value of subject property as of April 1st, 2021 is $5,206,000 and that the 2023 assessed value should be confirmed. The subject property is office building, 4-floor building built original 1948 with effective years built 1960. It has land area over 26,000 square feet, gross area around 55,000 square feet, and leasable area 39,805 square feet. On page number 2, I have presented property picture. Let's keep going. On page 3, more street view. On my page number 4, subject property has existing lease from Child and Family National Corporated. Lease start in 2015 for 10 years for 42,840 square feet and $10.11. Also, the use has revenue from parking for same tenants at $2.45. So total annual rent was for office and parking $12.56. On same page number 4, I presented 12 rent comparables. Lease started in 2016 and please withdraw my comparables number 12 because it's lease start in 2022. It's post reference. Sorry about it. My leases between $13 to $19 per square foot. My mean $15.72 and my median $16 per square foot. On page number 5, we apply $12.76 for 39,806 square feet. Our potential rent around $504,000. We did apply $12 vacancy lost, but it's 100% occupied. We apply 3% not recovered expenses plus $10 shortfall. It's $10 per square foot for vacant space. Our net operating income $383,000 roughly. Our capitalization rate 7.35%. How we came across our estimate value of $5,206,000. Further on my brief, on page number 9, I did presented 2023 property assessment notice. On page number 10, existing lease. And also on page number 15, I have presented renovation done for property from 2018 for 2020, around 1.2 million total. All my permits posted here through 15, 16, 17, 18, and on page 19, we can see survey map. On page 20, income expense mailer provided to us. And let's look specific for my rent comparables. Comparables on page 32. Or most of my rent comparables on the portrait, like subject property. Let's open page 33. My first comparables, 1871 Portrait Avenue. Lease started 2017, 3.7 thousand square feet and $13 per square foot. It's one floor building. On page number 34, another comparables, 2059 Portrait Avenue, one floor building. Rent in 2017, 1,000 square feet at $18 per square foot. On page 35, 12,000 Portrait, second floor, 200 units. It's on second floor, free floor building. Rent started in 2017 for $12 per square foot for 13,600 square feet. On page number 36, I presented 6 comparables. You can see 200, it's a second floor, 305 units, it's third floor, 102, it's main floor, 202, it's second, 304, third floor. So rent start between 2017 to 2019. And we can see it's biggest area, 3,550 square feet on second floor rent for $16. And to example, last comparables, 2,095 square feet rent for $19.05. And maximum $20 per square foot in minimum on third floor, $13.53 per square foot. My next comparables on page 37. 570 Portrait, third floor. Units 300, rent.
Post reference?
Post reference, yes, please cross this rent. My comparables on 38, it's 428 Portrait Avenue on second and fourth floor. Rent in 2017, 2018, over 1,000 square feet, 1.4 thousand square feet for $13.74, 1,000 square feet for $14 per square foot. Based of evidence presented in this report, it is assessor opinion that the market value of such a property of April 1st, 2021, $5,206,000. In that, the 2023 assessed value should be confirmed. Thank you. Any questions?
Thank you very much. Mr. Smith, do you have any questions?
Just very briefly, so page number 4, the rental comparables, the subject property is leased at $10.11 a square foot. Is that correct?
Correct. Plus, they showed parking. They pay $2.45 annual rent. So all total, $12.56.
So looking at the area of the subject, so 42,840 square feet is the lease to Child and Family Services. They have the whole building. When I look at the leases that are shown here, they're 3,000 square feet and under dominantly. That's going to drive significantly higher rental rates on a economies of scale basis, as well as purely the comparables themselves. Is that accurate?
We can see what agent owner reported us. Please open page 31. Let's look together. This leasable area. You can, everyone on page 31?
Yes.
We can see that Child and Family start lease in 2005. And on bottom, total for building 831 and 835 Portrait, 42,840 square feet of leasable area. And we can see commercial rent $10.11, plus they pay for parking $2.45. How I came across $12.56 because it's very close what we did estimate for the subject property. Let's look what we did. Sorry, I'm jumping around.
Okay, so those are all of my questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Moratsky,
I do not have any questions.
Okay, thank you very much. Mr. Whitbread, any questions?
No questions, thank you.
Nor do I. So, Mr. Smith?
Thank you, Madam Chair. So just to clarify this particular issue with regard to the lease rate, if we look at, and I'll just point to the assessor's brief as it's the one that I have open right now. If we look at page number 30 of the assessment department brief, you can see the pardon me, this is as of the valuation date. You can see the commercial rent at $10.11 a square foot. This is very odd that I did not see this before. Can you give me just a moment here? Sorry for taking up your time here. I am going to save us all a bunch of time and simply ask that we confirm the assessment for the subject property.
Okay. Okay, thank you very much.
Delay.
Sorry?
My apologies for that delay.
No, that's fine. Okay, thank you very much. Okay, we have heard all the items scheduled, and this hearing is now adjourned.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a great day. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon.
Thank you, Rhonda.